Hi everybody, welcome to some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump into today's stories. Our first story is going to be from user GC1RPG and is titled Popping the Balloon for My Character. TLDR, one player is incredibly rude and mocks the theatrical return of my PC to the party, citing as a trope, although the rest of the table finds my short monologue to be pretty neat and had missed my character's presence. Background: I took over as DM for this campaign for the summer to put the party through a side adventure in the Underdark. The regular DM wanted a break. I told him I'd only do it for the summer, but he'd have to take it back by September. This is really nice of OP to do for that DM. Interesting is a side campaign or side adventure in the same campaign. I've never done this before. I don't know if I personally would. Not that I don't trust my players to run side content in my campaign setting, but I would feel bad for the person DMing to not be able to be a player while that campaign continues on via side content. If it was like a separate side campaign, that's personally different, but to let everyone else keep playing their characters while you have to like sideline yours, that doesn't sit right with me as like main DM. Story: I have been playing an Elven Cleric before I took over the campaign, and in terms of story, he had gone off for more training for a while. The party was now going to face a BBEG as they came out of the Underdark, a bit more toothsome. Sadly, the campaign didn't last until we got to the BBEG. I decided for a bit of flair for the dramatic, my character would be described as walking through the mists in a village and being there at just the right moment to return to the party. This was also a way for me to reintroduce him, such as describing his appearance. The party actually did miss him quite a bit, and tidbits on some of the things he had on his person from our previous adventures. When I got about halfway through my monologue, which was only going to last a few short minutes, one player loudly made snoring noises and yelled at the top of his lungs on how stupid the scene was and how dumb I must be for resorting to tropes. I should mention this player was autistic and thought nothing of being rather rude. He didn't generally care if you had a problem with it because it was part of him being autistic, so it was okay. Okay, just because you are autistic does not mean you can knowingly be rude and then blame it on your autism. That's not how it works. Actions do have consequences. This is a super rude thing to do. Honestly, just let LP monologue for 2 minutes after they ran an entire freaking side campaign for you. If it's too much, this precious 2 minutes of time, just tune them the fuck out. Just for 2 minutes, just go, I don't know, blank, think a sheep or a white room or something for 2 minutes. Let them do their thing and just keep playing. You interrupting and snoring and being a dick it's not helping anybody. I told him it was rude, but he still said it was really stupid. He immediately thrust a screen in front of me. I can't remember if it was a tablet or laptop, showing me the tropes he had looked up on TV tropes to illustrate his point. I calmly explained again how he was being very rude and obnoxious. I kept a calm voice and wasn't resorting to personal insults. I also explained how he had just hurt my feelings, and this would have made other players flee the table and feel unwanted. I think it's funny this dude is complaining about tropes. Like, have you not played D&D before? Most campaigns pull from whatever book, anime, video game the DM and or player is into that month. D&D is like literally tropes all the way through. This dude is just being a dick. How he has lasted this long at this table is shocking to me. I would have had a conversation about this dude's attitude really quick. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's my unwillingness to play bad D&D, but if someone's gonna act this way, we're either changing their tune or they're leaving real quick. Ain't nobody got time for that. He seemed to back down just a bit, but we decided to call it there as he had turned the tables to essentially say it was now our faults for trying to make him feel bad for yelling at him. There was a slight raised tone from some of the players, but we all had known him for years, tried to make to work with him on his behaviors, and people had just decided to walk away from that day's session. Okay, it's quite clear this campaign fell apart, which sucks. I'd be curious if this was partly due to this person's behavior. I'm really shocked people put up with this crap. I can deal with a lot of things, but if you're going to knowingly be an asshole, that's a problem. Treat people how you want to be treated. It's simple as that. Our next story is going to be from user Abby the Conqueror and is titled Roommates Think I'm a Problem Player and Harass Me About It IRL. Years ago, I moved into a house with DM, old, and new. DM ran a game that myself and old were in. It was great, and we were excited to move in together and be the D&D house. I met new shortly before they moved in, but they knew DM and old from college and seemed nice. We started playing a game run by DM with us 3 housemates and 4 other friends as players. However, after like 4 months or so of weekly sessions, old and new are suddenly treating me like I'm a terrible problem player. I'd be curious how they're treating OP. I'm sure we'll find out in just a bit. Did they mention problem behaviors or issues, or did they just start giving OP the cold shoulder or start being just like a dick out of nowhere? The DM could be harsh when it came to consequences and failure, and the party became extremely shy and risk-averse because of it. Hours of sessions were wasted catastrophizing decisions and getting paranoid about what could happen if things went wrong. I'd attempt to mediate and summarize everyone's concerns and point out paths to accomplish our goals, but old and new would interrupt and claim I was being bossy or say things like, "I don't appreciate how you're speaking to us right now." I asked him if he thought I was a problem, and he said no, but he couldn't control how old and new felt, which is true. He tried talking to them, but nothing came of it. Then old and new started coming after me while I was just trying to live in my own home. Alright, it sounds like old and new are the problem players here. If you have problems with another player, just bring it up politely. It could just be a simple misunderstanding. It could just be somebody didn't realize their behavior was an issue and they can adjust accordingly. If the DM, though, comes to speak to you about some problems that are going on, you might want to take them seriously. I feel like old and new are probably gassing each other up and are now taking it out of game, which is wildly inappropriate. It's one thing to talk out of game, just like as a one-off. It's another to be like ambushing somebody and pushing it beyond more than just like one quick chat or something. At a point, especially if you aren't willing to discuss those problems to find a solution, to be honest, you're just harassing somebody. You're not helping at all. They'd show up at my room wanting to talk, or catch me in the kitchen, or interrupt DM and I when we were talking about the game. They claimed I always shut down their ideas, forced everyone to agree with my plans, ignored everyone else's input, and dismissed player concerns about difficulty and consequence. That is a laundry list of bad things, apparently. It was always 2v1, and I could never defend myself to them. This went on for a couple months and got so bad and frequent enough that I was considering moving out to get away from them. I then apparently became such a bad player that old and new demanded an intervention. Talk about my problematic behavior at the table with the whole party. They presented their case to the group and smugly sat back to wait for all of them to agree with them. I very distinctly remember the smugness, except the rest of the party immediately jumped to my defense and told old and new they were being ridiculous. Every single one of them appreciated my contributions to the table, and none of them thought I was out of line or bossy or a problem in any way. Old and new were shocked that no one agreed with them, and I felt like crying from relief that the rest of the party had my back. Okay, old and new were very clearly gassing each other up. I get laying out your problems, but there is a way to go about it. Always try to avoid getting up on someone like 2v1, because that will automatically put the person you were talking to and trying to get their, behavior to change to immediately go on the defensive. And they'll be a lot less into whatever you're trying to get them to do. If you discuss with them and it doesn't go anywhere, get the DM involved, which I'm actually kind of surprised here. The DM was potentially near some of these conversations happening. So why would they not be like, wow, old and new keep gaining up on OP and being dicks? Like, why would they not step in and be like, hey, these problems, these nitpicks you're having aren't an issue. Like, shut the fuck up. A mass table intervention, ultimately that should be a last resort if you have to do it. And if you do something like this and the entire table's against you, you really need to rethink your viewpoint. During what little of the game continued to happen after that, old and new left me alone and didn't complain about me. I more or less got over it, and we continued to be roommates for a few more years, and we even successfully played in other campaigns together where all of us got along just fine. To this day, I could never figure out what their problem was that they suddenly took issue with like 4 months into the game, but was a small enough issue that they dropped it entirely once they were outnumbered. Okay, I feel like it was something small and they both gassed each other up and then never were adult enough to sit down and calmly talk about it or get the DM involved to talk about it. And then when the DM did talk to them, that apparently just didn't ring any fucking alarm bells. If you have an issue with someone, either get your DM involved or have a very calm, polite one-off with the person. Just don't be aggressive. Because this was probably something very small that ended up getting blown up because two people gassed each other up and then ended up making fools of themselves ultimately. Okay, our last story for today is going to be from user Strange Commercial 295 and is titled The D&D and Magic the Gathering Cuck Chair, also Am I the Asshole? My friend of 6 years is insufferable. For some context, I started playing D&D about 4 years ago and Magic the Gathering about a year ago. And particularly in Magic the Gathering, he is a baby. I recently learned how to properly build good decks and started winning. His response? Build the scummiest mono blue counterspell deck within bracket 4. A quarter of his deck, 25 cards, are counterspell. This gives some context to his personality. He has to win and he gets mad when he doesn't. Today we played a little campaign and the theme is post-apocalyptic Earth with mutants and such. Now our mission is to eliminate all mutants and mutagens within a compound. Just about every creature has an ability to force a con save and paralyze you or remove you from not only combat but the game at large. I spent roughly 30 minutes watching my friends play D&D before I got on my phone. He then threw a fit and loudly proclaims, "If you're on your phone, the monsters can hear it." I wasn't wearing earbuds because I wanted to know when I was allowed out of the proverbial cuck chair, and I had the volume very low. He did not specify, by the way, how long I would be out, and our cleric got lucky and got syringes with the cure to my condition, but who knows how long I would have had to watch. I almost packed up my stuff and left then and there. The main problem I have is that we have no recourse for his behavior. If we sat down to talk with him, he would deflect, blame, and finally pull the "I'm the host" card, even though his sister usually plans things. Am I the asshole for suggesting we cut him from the group? Okay, not a Magic the Gathering player, so I'm going to go ahead and assume mono blue with a ton of counterspell cards is a dick move. Personally, I'm more familiar with the Gundam trading card game, and counterspell really isn't a thing in that currently. Now, is the DM an asshole for adding tons of saves that take you out of the game completely? Potentially. Definitely not well thought out at the very least. Are they an asshole for acting like a child when people come to them with issues? Yes. But OP should not have sat on their phone. If they were tired of not playing, say you're going to step away for a minute and then go sit on your phone away from the table. Don't sit at the table with volume on, fucking around on your phone, because that ultimately comes off as childish to everyone at the table. Even if you are mad about how the game is going, treat others how you would want to be treated. Because I guarantee you, if one of your other players was at the table sitting on their phone fucking around, you would be annoyed too. Bring up your issue after the game with the DM, if it's a situation where you can actually talk to your DM. Are you an asshole for suggesting to cut them from the group? I personally don't think so, but you need to think it through. If you cut them through, you're losing your host essentially here, and potentially OP's sister, who you say plans a lot of this stuff. So cutting him would probably be cutting her as well, because I would expect her to back him up. So if you do bring up to cut him, that is at the very least going to bring quite a lot of tension. If it's too much, maybe just bow out from this group and hang out with these people separately. Or if you're willing to potentially lose 2 people and a place to play, bring it up to the rest of the group. To be honest, I am shocked OP is willing to deal with what they call an insufferable person for 6 years. Everyone has their quirks, don't get me wrong. But if it's to the point that you describe them as insufferable, why are you friends with them? Maybe think a little bit more on that before you move to kicking them from the group, because you might need to adjust to just not having them as a friend in your life. Alrighty, buddy, that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys all for hanging out. If you haven't, please comment on either of the 3 stories we talked about today. I would love to know your thoughts. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the video. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so that way I show up in your inbox and on your homepage more. And if you're interested, I do stream on Twitch throughout the week and weekend. Link is down in the description. Otherwise, I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.